Okay, let's get going. It's the 87th Security Thought Leadership webinar today. And the idea of Thought Leadership webinars is that every Tuesday and Thursday at this time, we debate a subject of crucial importance to the security world. And the idea of thought leadership is not to solve all the problems in the area, but rather to generate ideas, offer a critique, new ways of thinking. And by doing that today, we get a better type of security tomorrow. And the topic today is one that has cropped up again from previous webinars on the role of the GSOC, the Global Security Operations Centre. And we're going to be looking about what are the limitations and what are the opportunities of this thing called a GSOC, which seems to take many different forms, have many different roles, has got different implications and different opportunities going forward. As is usual, I've got panelists from different parts of the world today, three experts who will be approaching this from their side and offering their thoughts. In a second, I'll give each of them the chance to introduce themselves. Then when they've done that, 3 minutes to make their opening statement, their views on this subject matter. And once that's open, we will invite you, the audience, to address your questions. In fact, if you use the question and answer button at the bottom of your screen, get your question in early, and I promise you I'll do my best to come to you. So without further ado, let's meet our panelists. And first from the United Kingdom, let's go and see Ian. Ian.
Hi everyone, my name's Ian Glen. I have a 30-year history in working and running and owning organisations that deliver large integrated platforms as an integrator to FTSE 100 and Fortune 500 companies. And basically we try to lead with technology and the consolidation of all the data and information. So that's my background, has been as an integrator, reporting and delivering solutions. Thank you, Martin.
Thank you very much indeed, Ian. And next over to India and Jasbir.
Hi, my name is Jasbir Solanki. I'm the CEO for the Homeland and Cybersecurity Division for Mahindra Defence Systems Limited. We are part of Mahindra and Mahindra large group present across 100+ countries. And our prime job is to secure the company's assets and work with the private and government customer.
Thank you very much indeed. And finally, back to the UK again, and David.
Thank you, Martin. Hi, everybody. My name's David Harris. I'm currently the founder of my own consultancy firm, which I set up just before COVID started to happen across the globe. But prior to that, with 30 years experience in both police and corporate security, I was the managing director of physical security at Barclays Bank.
Indeed, thank you, David. And that's when I first got to know you. Okay, that's the panel. Another expertise from a wide range of perspectives. Let's find out what they've got to say on this subject matter. Ian, your opening statement, please.
Thank you very much, Martin. So what are the key characteristics I would expect of an effective GSOC? Basically, it has to deliver simple salient information delivered against clearly defined client-led policies and procedures. It's an environment that display evolving relevant facts to enable the command and control of ever changing events. GSOC is a solution, it's not a product, and is blended differently in each vertical. It also has to provide value to other stakeholders to deliver a consistent recognized return on investment and secure continued investment. It's a business solution, not just a security facility. If we look at the impediments that we have as an integrator to deliver efficient GSOC, we have to manage legacy infrastructure, legacy technology, disparate OEM platforms across campuses. And if you look at things like CCTV, it still consumes large bandwidths and storage, both by physical platforms and also by the media that it's distributed. And if you look then at how technology is going to improve that, it's going to move to analytics on the edge. So when that happens, the bandwidth demand and the storage demand is expected to drop to 5%. It's my job as an integrator to steer the clients down that path of the synergies and savings that can be achieved through the technology and the efficiency of the information that's delivered and accuracy. But then we get other situations where we have distributed OEM access control. And again, if you work in a regulated industry, you have to follow compliance and you have to prove compliance. And in having to remove levers from a business, you have to go across maybe 10 or 12 access control systems, which have got multiple number formats, and therefore following the compliance can be difficult. Now we can mitigate some of this with PSIM, physical security information management software solutions. but it doesn't allow us to eradicate multiple card formats and multiple card technologies. So then if we actually are building a GSOC, we have to lead the client down the road that they're going to move to bring your own devices, and you're going to have to manage credentials on the edge. That means an infrastructure has to be built to the readers and to the devices on the edge to allow full compliance and full control. As with IT, the security industry is moving to a continued platform of investment and change. And that's a good thing, but it requires a commitment to invest continually, especially when you look at what the benefits of analytical devices on the floor. If we look at the change and respond to the evolving cyber threats and changing criminal activities on the cyber platform that we have to protect against, security is no longer a purchase and maintain and a reactionary investment. It has to be an ongoing investment. Again, how are GSOCs likely to evolve because of all of this technology? Well, in my opinion, the GSOC will become the natural overarching information command center for the campus. It'll cover logical, cyber, physical security, and deliver business intelligence. And in my opinion, hosting the future benefits from developments in smart buildings and cities and the Internet of Things. Ultimately, GSOC collects and analyzes data from any source that may be considered valuable intelligence to the governors of the campus, which will allow the employees and their environment to be securely protected, whilst providing information from the campus floor to improve efficiency and customer experience. The GSOC will analyse and deliver salient data to allow decisions to be taken and made. It will also be critical in proving compliance is in place over large campuses. The security-led acronyms such as PSIM and GSOC, I believe, should no longer be considered as limited to benefiting security teams only. Other stakeholders shall be vested, which will assist in measuring the return of investment and securing ongoing investment on the GSOC as a facility. That's my statement, Martin. Thank you.
Yeah, very, very good. Thank you very much indeed. Well, that's given us a good insight, and there's plenty for us to come back on then, Ian. Just to say to the audience out there, do please use the question and answer button, the bottom of your screen, get your questions in, and we'll endeavour to discuss them when all panellists have done their opening statements. Okay, back to Jasbir over in India. Jasbir, your opening statement, please.
Yeah, thank you, Martin. So the GSOC for us is a global security operation. So why do you need it? So it's probably required for large organizations who are operating across countries or across the country, right? And when you talk about GSOC, for us, it is both the physical and the logical, right? It is both the physical access, the logical access. It is both the physical protections, the logical protection. So we just don't want to focus on, because that's the trend which you see today, because you just don't want to operate a security operation center for cyber security separate and for physical security separate. So we see the technologies are merging together. It makes more sense for organizations to work together, where your IT security officers are working with physical security officers. And why do you need a GSOC? It is probably primarily for your employee protection, your asset protection, and the third is the brand protection. Today, for large organization, brand protection is a key. A lot of people are operating on social media, dark web, and then you want to protect your employees, your assets from all kind of threats across the world. And it makes sense for larger organizations. So first question people needs to ask, does your organization is large enough to have a GSOC, right? And if yes, then go for its implementation. But even if you're not a large organization, you're a mid-size of organizations, then also you have a smaller version of GSOC. You can call it a security operation center, where the fusion of technology happens. Because no matter which part of the world or which organization you work for, you need a center where entire information from all the sensors comes together. You make a sense of it. You correlate the informations, and then you get the decisions, and you have standard SOPs to act on it. So, but the GSOC has to be risk-based. If your organization has different kind of risk, so select technologies and tool accordingly. And the third most important part is probably the budget, right? Because no matter which organization you work with, you have to make sure that the budget which you spend on selecting the right tools and technology should be correct and appropriate, and it is risk-based. It is not that you are probably in oil and gas sector, then you want to spend most of the money in setting the GSOC. So is the threat is real? And then if it is yes, and then you spend the money required for it.
Thank you very much, Jasbir. Thank you very much indeed. Again, plenty of stuff there we can come back on to you. Can I just remind the audience, question and answer button at the bottom of your screen. If you get your questions on there, we'll endeavour to come to you after we've heard from our third panellist. David, your opening statement, please.
Thank you, Martin. I am an advocate of global operations centers. I'm not an advocate of them being security operations centers. Both my colleagues have already said there is a convergence in what we're seeing with risks across the globe. So I believe these operations centers should focus on the risks for your business. Each of your verticals, your cyber, your IT, your physical security, they will have policy, standards, and procedures. The issues for your organizations is where those policies, standards, and procedures do not overlap. That's where the gaps occur. That's where the issues occur for your organization. By converging those into an operations center, you have the communication capacity and ability to see between the gaps. In addition to that, you can find other areas that currently have been, dare I say it, not focused on enough. The insider threat, which is something that I think needs much more attention for a lot of organizations, and also identifying your most vulnerable assets. What might be considered the most vulnerable asset to a cyber team might not have been considered by physical security until those entities begin to consider it holistically. So what should you think about when you're setting up your operations center? Well, it should be aligned to your business strategy. You're not going to get a business strategy signed off unless you can demonstrate that it's going to add value to your organization, potentially beyond just delivering what you want it or what your function wants it to deliver. You have to consider, is it 24/7 or is it follow the sun? Jasbir has already mentioned the cost, but I would add to that, dependent on where you're planning to locate your operations center, you have to consider talent acquisition. Can you get the level of talent that you need to staff your operations center in the geography that you're planning to place it? And then what about resilience? Do you just have one or do you have two? Because if the one that you've got has to evacuate the building, you no longer have an operations center. And then I'd like to speak about how to make it operationally effective. And for that, I consider there are 4 key areas that you must get right. The first one, over to Ian, it's about the data in and the data out of your operations center. But beyond that, you need to be clear on roles, accountability, who needs to be consulted and who needs to be informed. If you don't have clarity on responsibilities and accountability, you will have confusion when dealing with a situation. To do that, I suggest develop playbooks for every type of incident that you might come across and look at ways that you can define actions on for your operations center and support functions that they can provide. And then finally, it's communication. Communication is critical. You can get it wrong so easily. But to get it right, you need to focus on 4 areas: the team, the individual risk functions. You need to focus on your incident management leadership structure, your gold, silver, bronze, if that's what you have. You need to be able to communicate effectively with your organizational leadership, because there will be those that need to know and those that want to know, and you need to define who is who. And then you have to be able to communicate with your own organization. At some point, you may have an incident where you need to speak to everyone in your organization. Getting that right and getting it wrong can make the difference to your credibility and your capability to continue to evolve your operations center beyond your starting point. Thank you, Martin.
Thank you very much indeed. Really, really good. Okay, thank you very much. Well, look, excellent opening statements. Really, really clear. I'm going to go to a first question. I'm going to come to you first, Ian. And James Willison, who's written extensively actually and done research on the issue of convergence, bringing together physical and cyber. Ian, you were the first to mention that. But he's asked, how many converged security operations centers are there? His experience is that they tend to operate separately, and only a few are building one center. So Ian, I'm going to come first, and because you mentioned this, Jasbir, I'm going to come to you second, David, after that. So are they separate, Ian, or are they converging?
They are converging. I mean, typically it's sat over in the IT world, and apart from logical access and stuff and logons, we tended to sit to the left, and we had to become trusted devices. But I know of one major financial institution that built a GSOC that was cyber focused and then accepted all the physical security that we typically as integrators would supply within their command and control center. So they were driven by the cyber management of their whole campus, and then we formed a part of that, which is as it should be.
Okay. Jasbir, you also mentioned this. You said in India it's standard practice to be combined. You don't have separate ones then?
Yeah, so today we have separate one, but I see, going forward, probably in a year's or 2 years time, they will converge because it makes business sense, because it's going to save money for the various CEOs and the organization. So they will take that call. So it's a very logical step, Martin. It has to be taken. And we as an organization are also promoting it across the world, that this is the need of the hour today when you want to save your cost budget. And it makes a lot of sense. So you can have, research on it, that why both functions combined together. It's probably the organization's egos and, vertical compartments, which is not letting it combine together. So it will happen.
But you raised an interesting point though, Jasbir, just on that point, because one of the issues you raised in your opening statement was budget. And you presented it there as converged is cheaper, but not in the short run. To make it all happen, it's more expensive, or can be, surely.
No. So
okay.
What I said, Martin, is that, if you see this operations combining together, there'll be a lot of synergy. And for our organizations, your risk posture will change, because end of the day, what are you looking by these investment? Is that your organization should be more secure and more protective, right? Protecting your employees' assets and your brand. So if you combine it together, just apart from the budget perspective, your exposure level and level which you are operating is going to go high.
Okay, David. It seems a bit of a statement of the obvious to say combined is better, but James's point is it's wishful thinking on many parts. It's not happening as much as it should do.
I completely agree. It's not happening as much as potentially it could do, not necessarily that it should do, because building an operations center is a starting point, not an end point. And so many organizations will already have their regional or global security control rooms. If that's all you have at the moment, then you need to consider what you can do with that existing real estate that you have and how you can improve the data in and the data out. Invite those other risk function areas into your space, if that's the best opportunity to then begin growing the franchise. Building a global security operations center can become a vanity project. It can be about empire building. But truly, with my experience of working with global security operations centers, I can see the tangible exponential value that you get by having multiple risk disciplines working hand in glove. If I'm putting security hardware onto a corporate network, I must be sure that that physical security hardware, the cameras and access control, is cyber secure, that its information management systems are applicable to the information risk management policies I have in the organization. The best way to do that is work hand in glove with those functions.
Yeah, I mean, but okay, makes perfect sense, David, but why is that not obvious, or at least why then is that not being followed as a matter of course?
I think historically what you've found is that people who work in cyber generally have a different background, a different career trajectory to those that work in audit or information risk management or indeed IT risk. What we need to do is leaders of tomorrow need to look more holistically and more broadly about what is to the benefit of the organization. Generally, what happens is the first person that takes the idea to an organization is the one that ends up owning it and running it. But if you take it for your own function, you're not necessarily going to get the business case signed off. If you do it collaboratively across all the functions, you have a much stronger business case for doing it.
Yeah, okay. Ian, did you want to come back on that finally, on that point?
Yeah, I think we've got a clear difference in the markets and how things work. So if you look at the new tech companies like Facebook, and the companies that have come out of the IT era and age, they already have followed that path because they don't have to move legacy and change and attitudes and applications that are already embedded in the sector. So again, it is dependent on how old the business is and how much legacy sits across the campus and the politics and policies that have to be overcome to move to the new format. Not everybody's a believer in an old age organization.
No. Okay. So the realities of the world on that one a bit, I suppose. Okay, David, let me come to you first on this one. Dan Ling says, is there a place in the market for virtual operations centre? And what are the risks and opportunities associated with them? I presume by that, what is a virtual operations centre? I suppose I ought to clarify. I was Dan to clarify. Well, perhaps David.
That's okay. Hi, Dan. How are you? From my point of view, I think it is something that could work, but you would miss out on some of the synergies.
What is it, David? What is it? Just to clarify.
Well, I'm assuming, you know what they say about assumption, but I'm assuming you have the disciplines, but they don't necessarily have to be converged into a single physical space. Right?
Okay.
So they can be separated across the globe. Or across the country.
I see. Okay, David.
So I think it's achievable. It makes it much more difficult, in my humble opinion, to be able to successfully deliver incident management response when you're working in a virtual environment, especially if you're consistently working in that environment. To do it as a one-off, let's say your building is evacuated, you could probably get away with it. But to do it regularly, the things that I talked about, communication in particular, suddenly becomes so much harder if you're working remotely. It's not to say it can't be done. Personally, though, I think there is risk in doing that, especially if it's a new venture for your organization. You're asking your people to learn so many new tricks in such a short period of time, and to be operationally effective at a time when the spotlight is tightly focused on them.
Yeah, okay. Let me come to you, Jasbir. So have you come across this concept before? I mean, I can see the logic of it, though. I can see how it would be attractive. Jasbir?
No, Martin. So not yet. Probably this is I think the thought is coming from everything is moving to the cloud. So why not use the virtual world to manage your operation? So that's my understanding. But yes, it can be tried. It can be done. But preferably with a security operations center, you have to have a hybrid model. Even if you want to try this option, go for a hybrid. You have a physical infrastructure, you have a team there managing it, and you have something in virtual environment also.
Okay, that makes sense. Ian, let me get your thoughts on this. It's an interesting concept. I can see how this would be easier for some organizations to get started with.
Yeah, if you run a global campus, there's always going to be an element of remote management, and the more technology can be used through virtual environments to deliver content into the command and control center. But at the end of the day, there comes a point when stakeholders sat in the command and control GSOC, taking all the information on board and making decisions, able to reference each other. It still has a value. But we're talking about global management of events where it used to be local management at all times. And that's what technology does. It allows oversight in management to occur. So it's a hybrid journey, I believe.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. I've got a question now from Mike McBride. Actually, I was going to ask this question, but he's actually asked it better than me. I'll come to Jasbir first on this one, I think. And it's about COVID-19 and the implications that's had. I mean, we're into social distancing now, Jasbir. I assume it's the same over there, but perhaps you'll correct me in a minute. And about making these safe places to work. One-way systems, pathogen-free touch points, air conditioning. Has COVID-19 changing things? Should it change things? Will it change things? Jasbir first, then I'll come to David second, Ian third.
So Martin, these are my personal viewpoints, and I'll come out. So we have lived through this phase, and nobody probably in our lifetime we have seen this first time countries locking down their borders, states, and then districts. And in our personal experience, we manage the world's largest emergency management system in one of the states in India. That's the largest state. Its population is 220 million, and it's one command and control emergency number like 911. So all the call comes there. Our entire team was working during this COVID time, and almost 150 odd people of different team members went through this COVID phase. And we tried implementing best of social distancing is one way, but yes, whatever protection, wherever segregation of people was there, wherever we could use the technology, probably we were the first one where the call taking was also put on the cloud, and people were taking calls from emergency calls, police, medical, fire, all calls from their houses, because it happens in a couple of times. You have to lock down the facilities. We made sure the data center runs, and we were doing the police dispatches, ambulance, and other thing also remotely. So it has been a very, very different experience for us, and we have lived through this whole time, and the things have started falling back to the normal. yes, these practices needs to be kept and should be done till the time we come out of this phase. But I believe in next 6 to 7 months time, things will fall back again. We are all human beings. We will all come back to our natural natures. Yes, protections and some of the learnings which are best should be implemented everywhere across the world.
David, do you agree with that?
Yes, I do. I mean, these are unprecedented times in our lifetime, you know. But one of the things I touched on in my opening statement was about the resilience of your operations center. And with COVID, it's one of those times where your operations center may have to close. And do you have the resilience in the thoughts and the planning within your organization to enable the functionality to continue, even if the physical environment has had to close? My own personal view, and I don't have experience of this because I've spent a lot of my time in my garden over the last year, but I would have thought logic for any organization that already runs an operations center such as this would consider it one of their critical arms for dealing with a pandemic across their organization. So delivering operations from their operations center, continuing to do that in the physical environment, making sure that everybody who's working in that environment remains safe and secure and healthy would be one of the priorities of any resilience function within an organization, to get them back up and running so that they can continue to deliver those risk-based focused services across the whole of the organization.
Yes, okay. Thank you very much indeed. Ian, I want to make sure we do Mike's question. It's about COVID practices within the GSOC itself, about whether these are whether these are going to make a difference to how these are run in the future. Ian.
Well, it has to make a difference because at the end of the day, it's an ever-changing set of values. Now, we can use sensors and technology that, so my background's an integrator, and we put sensors and technologies in for measurement of rules by exception. So therefore, COVID-19 is going to set up values and rules about spatial distancing, about, there's a lot of stuff about reading body temperature and measuring and providing information back as to whether there's a threat of COVID-19. So ultimately, we have to follow the rules. Now, the systems and solutions that currently CCTV, people counting sensors, everything else, that can be used to set up the measurement, if you like, to ensure that all the rules are adhered to. But like all things in the world, in a matter of crisis, you know, the rules will sometimes go to the wall. So if you go into a war situation, they don't keep spatial distance there, you know. So it just depends on how the organizations decide how to deploy the rules. And our job, or my industry's challenge, is to provide feedback on those breaches so that the compliance can then be measured and read and ascertained whether it was acceptable or not, or indeed if the compliance is being breached and putting people at risk.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. I'm going to come back to a question for you, David, because from Chris Taxis. I hope I said that right, Chris. And you raised in your point, your opening statement was, I think, Dave, your opening point was that it shouldn't be about security, it should be about broader than that. And Chris makes the point about risk operations centers. Just raised the observation, thought in my mind, David. Are they really called the right things? Is GSOC or the word security in the title limiting? Should we call them something different? Could we get away with that and do that? Jasbir, I'll come to you afterwards. David.
I think they should be called something different, frankly. Hi, Chris, how are you? I personally think a GSOC is dated and it's limiting, it's self-limiting. But again, it depends on your organization. It depends what your organization does. There'll be some people on this call that run security organizations, and so therefore it makes sense. That doesn't mean to say it should just be a physical security operations center. There are other security risks that might be addressed. But I think for a large corporate or a large campus or an organization like an NHS trust or something like that, their operations center can be multifaceted. Indeed, it makes logical sense to make them multifaceted, to bring in subject matter experts from multiple different disciplines. And so I'm of the view they should be global operations centers to focus on risk and management of those operations. Okay,
Jasbir, what do you say to that?
Martin, very simple. Nothing is in name, so you can name it anyway. You can call it command center, command control center. You know, names will come as long as what is the objective of, you know, putting this facility in place is very important. And once we have the objective, very clear. You can call it by any name. The output should be there. The output should be to protect the organization, to help the business grow and protect its assets. So that's my take on it.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed. Ian, over to you. I've got a question here now. Now, here's a thought. It's from Dinesh Ilangovan. And you've been speaking, in fact, you've all in different ways been speaking about the advances in technology and the opportunities that offers. What's the feasibility of having robots replacing people in command centres? Ridiculous or perfectly possible?
Well, it depends on the intelligence in the robot. I've got a robot vacuum cleaner and it keeps getting stuck in the corner. So I'd like to spend a bit of time with my robot before I decided to hand over command and control to it.
Okay, I guess they're not good enough yet is your answer, but
we're all on a journey of technology and what it delivers. At the end of the day, we have to measure and assess how robust that technology is and how much then we can pass the trust and confidence into it. So, it's not something that you can say no to. If you watch the movies, if you watch Demolition Man, most of the stuff that we saw in 1995 was nonsense, and now it's true. It's no longer nonsense, it's fact. So we're all on a journey with technology. It's about when we place trust in it.
Okay, David?
Yes, I was just going to say that I kind of slightly have an issue with even using the terms command and control. Again, building an operations center is evolutionary. And I think it's naive to think that if you have disciplines operating effectively in your organization now, to say that they are then going to be told what to do by this new group that are all sitting in your GSOC or whatever it is, and they will have command and control of all of those incidents. I think it's again, we may be talking semantics, but I think people need to take a step back from exactly what it is they want from their command and control room. I don't think robots or artificial intelligence is where it needs to be able to make some of the effective, meaningful operational decisions that would need to be made to manage an organization the size of the large organizations that I've worked in previously.
Yeah, fair enough. It's an interesting question, I think. Timothy Kelly actually has got a question actually in response to something you said, David. The point is that businesses don't seem to have the same appetite for large costs associated with the single entity GSOC. So what are your thoughts on prioritising the purpose of the GSOC and what it will provide the overall business? A focus, I guess.
Well, again, I come from a physical security background. One of the logical ways that you can improve the business case for a collaborative, cohesive GSOC is to look at, can you make savings in your existing operation? If you already have national security control rooms, regional security control rooms, a global security control room, do you need all of those functions? Do you need all of that physical space? Can you make savings for the business and build that into your business case? That's the approach that I've taken in the past, and it's worked really well. The business has seen the merit, but also it's about telling the story of risk convergence and allowing the organization to understand what it is you're trying to achieve for them.
Yeah, okay. I mean, on this, Jasbir, it's a good point, this actually, because there's a couple of questions on the value of a GSOC. In India, the world you're aware of, Jasbir, to what extent is the justification for a GSOC based on the economic value it can offer rather than just the operational convenience or operational opportunity? Do you have to show return on investment in the decisions that are made out there?
Martin, so yes, you have to show in any business case that return on investment. But GSOCs or command centers are driven by various external factor, internal factor. So how's the security in the country? How's the security for that business, that industry? Just to give you an example, we have extensive experience in working in physical security. So way back in 2008, Mumbai attack happened, and there was an organization who was setting up a $4 billion refinery infrastructure, right? And so they wanted to secure their 30 plus assets spread across 1,000 kilometers. And the organization was ready to spend money, and they wanted to get the best tools, technology, because this is the kind of investment if you're doing it, and this investment needs a protection of different level. And if your threats are there, So you should do this. So typically it comes out with, you have to do a lot of, risk assessment. That's how follow the process. What is the risk for your assets, for your organizations, and then what tools and technology you need. And then you come out within a budget to have the technologies, because these are very important 3 pillars you need to decide, and what kind of people, process, and technology you have to combine together and make a compelling, business case for your management to approve, or for your customer management to approve. And I'm sure any sensible management or board will want their business will survive only when they are protected. So it is as good as, protection of your family, your state, your country, the same way the protection of your organization. Okay. And I personally believe, Martin, like, you have seen, HR functions, operation functions, marketing, finance, you will see a cyber security pillar also like this, because, and why I'm saying it'll become a cyber defense, because all organizations, everyone has become digital. Nobody, you are a software company today. Even your organization is a software company, because you are using phones, tablets, internet, and you would need your security in cyberspace.
Okay, thank you very much indeed, Dave. I'm going to come to you on this question, because when I was asking about value, Daniel Lenecki's got a question in, Ian, and it says, how would you quantify the value of the metadata available in the GSOC as a commodity and use it to encourage other stakeholders in the organization to connect their systems in the GSOC? It comes back to this system about how you place a value. Ian, let you answer the question your own way.
Yeah, hi, Daniel. Basically, when you have a business campus that's aged and needs to be changed and refined to meet the changes in the market sector, it's how that's measured. And I had one particular client, his HVAC heating budget was $140 million a year across his campus that he was going to reduce. And he was trying to measure how quickly he could reduce the campus. So we put together a project, if you like, where we use cameras and sensors that they had installed for security to measure the activity in all of the buildings, and then they could work out how they could speed up the closing down of the campus and have the cost savings sooner. So that also created a spend to save initiative on security devices in other buildings and platforms. So if you look at occupancy in large corporates, they currently spend £50 to £100 per sensor to put it under the desk to measure the occupancy. We can do all of that through CCTV cameras that have been deployed across the campus again, already for security. So therefore, if you take, I had one project where they were going to spend £5 million on software to run analytics across the CCTV cameras to help manage the space planning, not realizing that we had all the devices already on the ground that would provide all of that and create a significant saving. So when you start to work in a corporate real estate environment, which is business led, then you can provide them content and data, as Daniel says, metadata off the back of devices to allow them to measure the activity across all their floors. And that's got a significant value that they're already investing in already. So it releases budget from corporate real estate into the security piece, if you like, and gives a mutual benefit across the business.
Really good example. Really good example. Thank you. I want to get another big question, if I might. It comes from Simon Cham, Rajiv Martha, Dennis Shep in their different ways are asking this question. I'll come to you first, David. What does the future of GSOCs look like? Where does it go from here? David first. I'll come to all of you, but David first.
I'm glad you came to me, because I think the future is actually in the data with Ian. I think upfront, you have to have a clear vision for your own organization. But the GSOC for me is going to be the center of information, and it's information management. And as people talk all the time about data lakes, etc., and we're using cloud technology, the amount of data that we now have available to us is overwhelming. Being able to condense that data into manageable, understandable, bite-sized chunks, and then understand how that data that you're gathering can be used for your organization to the benefit of your organization, not just to the benefit of risk management. That's the future of the GSOC. It's about taking the data that we already have access to, but putting it together in a single place and analyzing that data so that you can benefit your organization.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Jasbir, your thoughts on this, the future, what do they look like in the future, whatever they're called?
it is going to be, more and more organization will start adopting GSOC, right? And I feel there'll be a convergence. It has started already between the physical and the cyber part. And the managements will start putting a lot of money and taking out information from it. It'll become a business enabler for leaders to decide the next course of actions for protecting their assets.
Do you know what? This sounds all very convincing to me as an external. Ian, obviously this all makes sense on paper. It sounds, central hub, organisation of information intelligence. Do you think they're going to grow? Do you think they're going to become commonplace? Do you think they're going to advance in this way? Your thoughts, Ian?
I think they are, because most of the corporates I've worked with all employ professors of data management, trying to understand, what the value is of all the data that gets generated in their business through systems that they already own and host. And that has to converge into a cloud, some central repository, if you like, and then somebody has to take the content and put meaning to it in context, and that'll be security context, which will move into the GSOC. It'll be business context. It'll move into the management teams. So literally, there's going to be a kernel of data that everybody's going to be searching for context and content to improve the security of the business, the security of the cyber within the business, the security to the employees, and improving the customer experience as well through business efficiencies. So I think, it's like everything. If you look at the mobile phone and how many devices you have on a mobile phone, we're bringing all this information in, and then it's going to be then used for business analysis to make businesses to be able to make confident decisions because the content is trusted and delivered well.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much indeed. David, do you want to come back, David?
I was just going to go on to a very simple example that Ian and I have discussed and looked to implement many times. Just because you have a security camera, obviously work in a bank, because you have a security camera in a branch doesn't mean to say you can't use that security camera to capture footfall going in and out of that branch. That security camera can then be used to define how many staff you need working in that branch, what the busiest times of day might be. If you're a customer, should I go to the branch now, or is the queue 8 miles long? Should I go to the branch that's 2 minutes down the road from me instead of the one that's just over the road? That's where you really get management data that benefits the business and the organization beyond just delivering security risk management. And that's the future of the GSOC.
Yeah, okay. It all sounds very promising, I have to say. Final question. I'll come to you, Jasbir, and it's from Dinesh, and the question is a really good one about when you make a business case to make savings, is it obvious afterwards that you have made savings? Are they always easy to calculate and measure and present? I mean, it's one of the great difficulties of security, isn't it? Just in terms of justifying it afterwards, easy or not?
So it's not easy even when you are taking the proposal to the management, because it's like, everyone is a security expert because people apply what they do at home also. So I'm an ex-naval officer, so I work with the Indian Navy. So a couple of officers, used to apply their car engine philosophy, that how the combustion engine works in the car, to a ship engine, right? So, and they used to ask questions about it. So the same way, everybody becomes an expert. And when you take it to the management, they always ask why so much funds are required for putting these systems, access control cameras and other technology, command control center. But yes, if you follow the logical, the metrics, which is your risk assessment, you have identified the right risk, and then you identify the right mitigation tool and the cost for it, right? So everybody will get convinced, and then you have to say this is the return on your investment. But yes, it is difficult to justify even after you have put the systems that, 1 year of your investment, whatever you do over a period of 1 year time, can be written back to you in one day when the actual attack happens on you. Yeah. Your systems are protected, when you see that the business continue to respond back even when the attack happens. So it's an insurance, right? Security is all about managing the perception. It's all about, and you have to do it.
Thank you very much indeed, Jasbir, David, Ian. Thank you very much indeed for your input there. That was fantastic. Thank you, the audience, for your questions as well. Absolutely. I didn't get to everyone on the questions. I'm so sorry, but there were just too many, and. But we'll return to this topic. We'll return to it in due course. Just a few final comments, if I might, beyond this. Just to remind you that the UK OSPA's Virtual Awards are live on Thursday, 25th of February at 3:30. You need to book your place. It's free. Find out who the outstanding performers are in the UK security industry. The awards are still open. You can still enter in South Africa and Nigeria, and other countries are opening soon. So do look out, do look out. Just to let you know, there's a major research study going on, but under the umbrella of the Security Research Initiative. And thank you very much indeed for all our supporter members there. Perpetuityresearch.com. We would love to hear your views on what the impacts of COVID-19 are on security. If you can spare us just 15 minutes at the most, probably 10 minutes to be honest, we'd really appreciate it. Thank you. And finally to say that we go through it all again next Tuesday, our 88th Security Thought Leadership webinar. In security, we can't find suitable security talent from diverse backgrounds. Let's expose the illogical. That's next Tuesday. And just a warning that next Thursday, we're at the slightly earlier time of 9:30 in the morning, when we're looking at managing staff travel. So thank you very much indeed, once again, to the audience worldwide for your questions. Especially grateful to my panel, once again, for your insightful comments. That was fantastic. That was a great discussion. Hopefully we'll look forward to seeing you again. Hopefully it'll be on next Tuesday at 3:30. But whatever it is and wherever you are, until we do meet again, stay safe.